everyone, and welcome to Suburban Stone Age. In this video we're going to talk about tote delivery. In a previous video we had cleaned the totes out, put them in the truck, and drove them up to the desert, but now it's time to set them up at Mini Poi and get them ready to be used for water storage. What's nice about IBC totes is that I was able to load them into the truck, and also when I got up to Mini Poi I was able to unload them from the truck rather easily. When they're empty, they weigh about 90 pounds, I would estimate, on their own, and they fit perfectly into a short bed truck. You can just slide them in and then just put tie downs on each one. The one in the middle of the truck has a tie down that goes over the top, and then the one near the tailgate has a tie down that goes around the back, so they can't fly up and they can't fly backwards. So they're cinched down real well, and through the desert we go with our totes for delivery. Now, once we got to Mini Poi, it was something where I had to kind of figure out where it was I wanted to put the totes. The old cement pad that was there was built in such a way that there was a small square entryway, I suppose, on the east side, in addition to the big rectangular pad. I decided that that's where I was going to put the totes. So I started by removing the tie downs on the totes, and I lowered the tailgate and carefully slid the first tote back and then placed it on the cement pad. That was relatively easy. The next step, though, was to get that second tote stacked on top of the first tote. That was a little more tricky, but I was able to back the truck up very carefully so that the tailgate was right next to the first tote that I had put on the ground. I could push that second tote back out of the bed, and then with a little bit of manhandling, I was able to get the tote to stack on top of that second one. It was pretty easy, actually. I did go slow and I was very careful, but again, these totes are designed to do this, which is part of the amazing qualities of these IBC totes. They're designed to stack, and the pallets just locked into each other very, very easily. And when they were on that level surface, stacked too high, there was no way they were going to get blown over or tipped over, especially when they're filled with water. So I was very confident and very happy with the way that they stacked together. Here's a quick visual of what it looks like close up. I'm going to go around the pallets and show you how the pallets interlock, and also how do you get into that bottom pallet with the one on top. So these are things to sort of think through, but I wanted to film this short clip so that you could anticipate what to expect if you stack your IBC totes and you want to get water out of one or both of them at a later time. So with that portion of the job out of the way, I took a little break and took some time to observe the goings-ons at Mini Poi, and what was wonderful was to see the ravens back again flying in the wind. I do love to watch them, and it was nice to have a little break, catch my breath, and then begin phase 2 of how I was going to prepare the totes to sit in the sun all summer long and somehow protect them from the solar radiation and also from the wind. Once I'd had a chance to catch my breath, it was time to cover up the totes with some shade cloth. And I wanted to do this because although the totes are extremely durable and they are designed to be stacked and moved around the world, global transportation, having them sit for years and years and years just constantly exposed to that very harsh desert environment, I wanted to maximize their lifetime and not minimize it. So I decided that I would throw a shade cover over that just to help protect it from the sun. I ran down to the hardware store. I got some patio shade material. It's very durable. And I wrapped the totes around and then zip tied it to the aluminum frame of the IBC totes. And I basically sewed it on that way. I wanted it to be very careful, and I tucked in all the edges because the wind kicks up so bad in the afternoon. Any little place that it can get to rip off some kind of a cover like this, it will do that. So I spent my time made it a very close fit, and I took two wraps. The first wrap covered the bottom plus a little of the first tote, and then a second wrap to take it up to the edge of the top of the second tote. Zip tied it all down so it was nice and stable, and that was going to just give a little added protection from the sun. The last step here was security. I'd gotten such a great deal on these totes and had gone through so much effort of cleaning them, driving 3 hours one way to deliver them. And there's a total of 4, so this happened over 2 trips. That's a lot of time and gas and energy to get these totes up there, and security was important to me. So I bought at the local hardware store, I bought a big chain and a couple padlocks. The bolts that were bolted into the cement for whatever previous building was there in the past, those bolts still remained, which was nice for me because now I had an anchor prefabricated bolted into the cement. So I took advantage of that, and I wrapped my chain up and around both totes and then padlocked them onto these bolts onto the ground. So what did that accomplish? Well, if you were really determined to steal these totes, you could. You could bolt cut that chain and take off with these totes, but it's really more of just an extra step. It was a pretty thick chain, and you really have to be committed to stealing the totes to get that chain cut. So it's not perfect, but then again, I just have to take a chance. There's nothing else I can really do. Additionally, having the chain there was just a little extra insurance in case the wind picked up and tried to tip these guys over. You never know, it gets very windy up there in the afternoons, so that was a little extra peace of mind. So once I got that all chained down, that was it. Totes were delivered, somewhat protected, and I was ready. Ready to spray paint a big dumb sign on them. I thought it would be a good idea to label these totes. So, I figured I'd just tell people what they were for in case they got curious. And these are water tanks. There is fire up in this area, and it's always good to have water tanks for fire suppression. So I figured, hey, I'll just go ahead and spray paint what this is on the side so that if people happen by and they get curious about what these weird totes are doing up here in the desert next to this shed, they'll understand that this is for fire suppression and maybe just leave it alone because it's super asshole to take someone's water tanks for fire suppression. So I spray painted it and absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated it. When I stepped back to take a look, it looked like I had graffitied my own property, and I was not okay with that. So I did have to leave it for one trip, but by the next trip, when I delivered the other 2 totes, I hid that. And now I just have some signs that I still have to take up there and hang that say, non-potable water, do not drink, used for fire. Some like OSHA approved signs that I'm going to use those instead. So that's how I handled labeling the totes. Didn't like it. That part I probably would not recommend you do. All right, time to take one more quick break and watch some nature before we head on home. So I was really lucky to see some kind of a raptor flying over the hills, and then I saw our fellow ravens attack it. So I figured later on, I figured out that it was an osprey, which is something I had never seen this close to Minipoi before. I know they're over by the river and by the lake, but this is kind of off the beaten path for them. So it was wonderful to see, and it was kind of fun to watch the raven assert his territorial rights. Now it's time to hit the road and head on home. So this coming fall, I'm going to look forward to actually filling up the water with both rainwater and maybe some delivered water. But at least I have the totes there. That's just such a great advantage, and I'm really excited about using them to help take next steps with the property. So that's it. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this adventure on delivering totes with us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.